Have you ever wondered how often you should use adverbs of frequency in English? Well, you've come to the right place. Let's kick things off by understanding what adverbs of frequency actually are. In the simplest of terms, these are words that tell us how frequently something happens. Think about your daily routine. How often do you brush your teeth? Every day, right? So you'd say, I always brush my teeth. Here, always is the adverb of frequency. Or consider this, how often do you go to the gym? Once a week, perhaps. Then you'd say, I sometimes go to the gym. Again, sometimes is the adverb of frequency. Adverbs of frequency are fascinating, aren't they? They give us a way to communicate how often we do things or how regularly events occur. So buckle up, language explorers. Get ready as we dive into the world of adverbs of frequency in English. First up, we have the adverb always. This little word carries a big punch in the English language, and here's why. Always is an adverb of frequency, meaning it describes how often something happens. But always isn't just your average adverb of frequency. No. Always is the king of the hill, the top of the heap. When we use always, we're saying that something happens 100% of the time, without fail. Think about it. She always arrives on time. In this sentence, always tells us that she never, ever misses the mark. She's consistently punctual every time. You see, always is that reliable friend you can count on, no matter what. It's the steady heartbeat in the rhythm of English, keeping time with unfailing precision. So, always is used when an action or situation occurs all the time. Next we have usually. This adverb of frequency is like a reliable friend, showing up most of the time, but not always. Usually is used when something occurs around 70 to 90% of the time. It's a subtle way of saying that an action or situation happens more often than not, but it's not a guaranteed constant. Let's dive into some examples. If I say, I usually eat breakfast at 7 in the morning, it means that more often than not I'm munching on my toast and sipping my coffee at 7. But it doesn't mean that I eat breakfast at 7 every single day. There are days when I might have breakfast at 8, or even skip it altogether. So, when you use usually, you're leaving room for exceptions. You're acknowledging that while this is the norm, there might be instances when things are done differently. Remember, usually suggests that an action or situation happens most of the time, but not always. Moving on, we have sometimes. This little word is an adverb of frequency, and it's a bit of a Goldilocks in the English language. Not too often, not too rare, but just right in the middle. Sometimes suggests that something happens about 50% of the time. It's that perfect midpoint between always and never. Just think about it. If you say, he sometimes forgets his keys, you're painting a picture of a person who does forget his keys, but not all the time. It's not a constant, but it's also not a rare occurrence. It's a bit like flipping a coin. You could get heads, you could get tails. So when you're not sure if something happens often or hardly ever, sometimes is your go-to adverb. It's a beautifully versatile word, adding just the right amount of uncertainty to your sentence. So, sometimes is for actions or situations that happen about half of the time. Finally, we have never. It's the adverb of frequency that signifies an action doesn't happen at any point, or to put it in percentage terms, 0% of the time. It's the polar opposite of always, which implies 100% occurrence. Never is quite straightforward and easy to grasp. It's used to express that something does not take place, ever. Let's look at an example. If we say she never eats meat, we're stating that she does not consume meat at any time. It's not a once in a blue moon thing, it's a firm and absolute no. Or take this sentence, he never forgets to call his mum on Sundays. Here, never is used to stress that he always remembers to make that call every Sunday. It might seem a bit confusing at first, but when you get the hang of it, it becomes second nature. So there we have it, never is used when an action or situation does not occur at all. So, how often do we use these adverbs of frequency? We've journeyed through the landscape of English grammar, and now it's time to consolidate our findings. Remember, always is the ultimate commitment, expressing a full 100% frequency. It's the unwavering constant in your sentences. On the other hand, usually is slightly more flexible, suggesting a frequency of around 80 to 90%. It's your reliable yet adaptable friend in the language. Then we have sometimes, the very epitome of indecisiveness, wavering between 30 to 70%. It's the adverb that adds a dash of unpredictability to your sentences. Lastly, never is the absolute zero, the definitive absence. It's the staunch refusal in your linguistic toolbox. These 4 adverbs of frequency, each with their unique shades of meaning, can add nuance and precision to your English communication. And that wraps up our exploration of adverbs of frequency in English. Remember, how often you use them can make a world of difference in your communication.